Welcome back to another episode of Monster Monday here on the Ready to Die channel. In this series, every Monday, I delve into the design process for a creature that I have built for Pathfinder Second Edition. The stat block of this creature and many more can be found over on the Monster Monday blog, alongside a Pathfinder 1e and D&D 5e conversion. The blog, Monster Monday Twitter, and the Discord are all linked below. This week's foul, fleshy foe comes from a request that I received to build the Broodmother, which I'm going to have to be very careful about showing pictures for. The name Broodmother gets bandied about a good bit, but this one hails from the game of Dragon Age Origins. She's a giant abomination, one of the game's darkspawn, and a largely immobile one. While defined as a ghoul in-game, Dragon Age ghouls are not undead, and instead fit better as aberrations, being twisted but still living creatures almost akin to flesh warps. The Broodmother herself is a particularly powerful darkspawn, and one encountered rarely, almost always as a boss encounter. Therefore, I built her as a level 15 aberration with the added darkspawn trait in case I ever want to dive deeper into the monsters of Dragon Age. As mentioned, the Broodmother is a burly, bulky beast that is completely immobile in-game. I gave her some movement just so that she felt less like a hazard to me, but I still sought to capture her lack of motion by giving her a terrible dexterity bonus and keeping these speeds low. She balances that out with a high strength and constitution while also using a moderate wisdom. Being a creature generally consigned to a single area, she uses a low perception score. She doesn't go out hunting, she's not on guard, she's just kinda stuck waiting. The only skill that she interacts with is athletics to maintain her grapples, and that will therefore use a high bonus. A lot of this design process comes back to her being a large, unmoving sack of flesh. Her hide offers her some protection, but she's not dodging or evading attacks, so she will only use a moderate AC value. However, she's a big lady, and she matches her sheer immensitude with a high amount of hit points. Following that high constitution she has, fortitude is her best saving throw, and with that low dexterity, it shouldn't be surprising that her reflex save ends up being her lowest with a terrible value. I couldn't find anything to suggest specific resistances or immunities, but she's a creature that is always encountered at least partially buried within the ground, and sits upon a mass of tentacles. Following this logic, I decided to make her immune to prone, which also saves her from a weakness being tripped, something that she would be particularly vulnerable to with her low reflex. One of the nice things that when it came to building the Broodmother is that creatures from Dragon Age have actual moves for me to reference. She primarily fights using her tentacles and has an acidic spit on a low cooldown, both of which I decided to convert into strikes for this creature. Both of these strikes utilize a high attack bonus. The tentacle deals high damage for its level, and has a high reach to match how they range from her. The tentacles also have the sweep trait, based on how she swings them. Finally, her tentacles have the improved grab ability, since one of her powers is literally just called grab. Her acid spit uses moderate acid damage, but is hard capped at 60 feet of range. As part of her grab ability, the Broodmother is also described as crushing the target in her grasp, so she has the constrict ability using a high DC, allowing her to put the hurt on those sorry saps that don't have a good fortitude. In Dragon Age, the Broodmother's scream knocks nearby creatures prone, stuns those that are a bit further away, and merely disorients enemies further away than that. I designed Cacophonous Shriek for this effect, being a non-damaging ability with a cooldown, which influenced my decision to have it be a single action. It uses a DC between extreme and high, with effects based on the creature's proximity, just like in the game. I played Dragon Age back in the day, and don't remember everything about it, but this ability seems to suggest that prone is a worse condition than stunned. This is not the case in Pathfinder, so I designed it for the closest enemy to be knocked prone and stunned, trapping there for a round, while further away enemies are merely stunned or simply left vulnerable with flat-footed. In addition to her spit, the bile-blasting Broodmother also has a vomit ability, which fires acid in a cone, akin to a breath weapon, and is a pretty simple little thing. I designed it as such, with damage for a limited use area ability with a high DC. The final ability I took straight from her list of moves was Rotting Gas, which creates a cloud effect that deals damage over time. I wasn't quite sure how I wanted to design this, but ended up having it be an emanation with an unlimited use and damage that takes that into consideration. For the 1E version, I added a sustain effect because it was tougher to come up with a way to do persistent damage, but I liked it and ended up bringing that over to the 2E version even though it does have that persistent poison damage on a critical failure. Sweeping Tendrils is at least partially inspired by some of the attacks that the Broodmother makes with large swings of her tentacles, and I wasn't sure about making this an attack or a save that hits an area. I ultimately decided to have it be a save, so that I could include another ability that requires a reflex save, increasing the variance in her abilities that force saves. Since this is just dealing tentacle damage, it has the added effect of knocking people prone when they fail their save. I also included some abilities that aren't reflected in the attacks of the in-game Broodmother, but that I felt were a good fit design-wise. On the offensive front, she can attempt to tear a victim open like a party popper, using her pull apart. This functions somewhat similarly to Rend, being an effect that requires 2 actions and deals some extra damage, along with some debilitating effects from the injuries this inflicts. Additionally, the death aspect of the critical failure is based off of the Mukrati, which actually has a similar sort of design to it. As a non-damaging ability, the Broodmother can also direct darkspawn with her command Corruption. The concept for this particular feature is borrowed from the Hive Mother of the Oncrods, and should hopefully encourage me to make some more darkspawn down the line. But with that, we have come to the end of our discussion on the Broodmother. This abominable aberration assaults and assails adventurers with awful aggression, taking tentacles to task and arcing acid across the area. Using this monster absolutely requires forethought. Her slow speed means that if you put her in an open area, the heroes can likely kite her to death. She has decent range on her attacks and abilities and good ways to keep people in place, but she needs to get them in range to begin with. She functions well as a boss, and as I make more darkspawn, or GMs apply the trait to creatures of their choosing, she'll have more minions to fight alongside. You can check out the Monster Monday blog and Twitter for the stat blocks, or hop on the Discord to join the monster making and general tabletop discussion. These posts also include a Pathfinder First Edition version of the monster, along with a D&D 5e conversion. Thanks for watching, and have a monstrous Monday.